Hey fellows, Nidryu here, and welcome to another episode of Major W, where I talk about games I found to be the most enjoyable and entertaining recently, and stuff that's finally not Genshin content. I'm a free man once again. So the game for this episode is yet another JRPG, but they're kind of just too good. So anyway, the game is Persona 5 Royal. This game came out about 3 years ago, but it's never too late to gush about something you find interesting and enjoyable. So Persona 5 Royal is the newest mainline entry to the Persona franchise, which is created by Atlas. And since it's a JRPG, it'll obviously have turn-based combat, but it honestly isn't boring at all, and I'll talk more about that later during the gameplay category. Its story follows a rebellious teen as he gets falsely accused and transfers to Shujin Academy. Over there, wild shit happens. A mysterious app appears on his phone, and he tries so hard to remove it, but he is the chosen one after all, so he enters the metaverse with it and becomes the man that is literally me. 100 hours later, and you'll be fighting a robot-looking god and a Mr. Nice Guy god. Yeah, that's about my story summary of Persona 5 Royal. So just like my Final Fantasy video, I'll be splitting up the topics into categories so it'll be slightly easier to digest. So without further ado, let's get started. So Persona 5's gameplay is split into two different parts, the visual novel-esque part and the dungeon crawling turn-based combat. I'll delve into the former part first. So for the high school life part of gameplay, it's actually pretty interesting. There's many things to do in the overworld, such as hang out with your friends, eat the fattest burger ever, get destroyed by a kid, and many other stuff like that. And while doing various activities, you have a chance to gain social stats, which allows you to do even more stuff. Now the reason I say it's interesting is because doing stuff could affect the other side of gameplay, which is the actual combat. If you raise your friend's confidant, which is their relationship status with you, you could unlock special abilities that could be extremely useful unless you're Oya. So doing stuff in the overworld actually matters, and you shouldn't just be wasting your time, which should be a perfect example for the average life of an average high school student. Oh yeah, also you can date people. That's a bonus, right? So with the slice of life part done, the dungeon crawling comes into place. So there's two types of templates you probably see, palaces and mementos. Palaces are the big dungeons that you'll traverse through for the story that have a boss at the end. And mementos is a randomly generated dungeon you can access throughout the game, but you'll have to finish it eventually since it is a big part of the game's story. I'd have to express the obvious and say that palaces are much more fun than mementos. So that's about it with the areas, and now time to focus on the funnest part for me, the actual combat. Like I've said before, this is a turn-based game, so you get the basics like items, normal attack, and a guard. But the best part is Persona! Joker and all of his teammates each have their own persona, with Joker being a little different type of guy though. So all in all, a persona is like the magic type of abilities you would see in any other RPG, and of course, it costs a sort of MP. Now, unlike Joker's teammates, he has access to a full variety of personas with a whole bunch of different abilities, and you could obtain them by either fusing or catching them like Pokemon. This leads to a lot of player expression since you can make your persona team whatever the hell you want it to be, which is pretty amazing, and it also gives a reason to keep on expanding your arsenal. Now something else like Pokemon, enemies and your team each have their own individual weakness, so you gotta find out what attacks to use and not to use, which in my opinion is pretty amazing since you gotta keep on thinking and can't really power through everything, unless you Izanagi no Kami Picoro. And on top of that, it rewards you if you attack their weakness because it allows you to extend a turn, which is just genius combat design. In conclusion, Persona 5 just has such good combat, but who would have thought? Now I won't get too deep into the story since I'm definitely gonna say some wrong shit, but I do love it because if I didn't, I probably wouldn't play the game. I do enjoy the main plot, although I did feel like some parts were a bit weird, but it didn't really affect it much unlike something that actually did, the entire Kumar arc. But the part where the story shines the most is with the characters. I enjoy most of their backstories as it also gives more personality to the characters and gives us more stuff to sympathize over. Like Ryuji, your best bro, is an amazing guy.
The dude's a freak!
Oh, and Akechi as well, I guess. You could also learn the stories of other characters that aren't really playable, but they're still pretty interesting, like Hifumi or Sojiro. But really, the characters add an essence to the entire world, and that's the best part about it. Overall, Persona 5 Royal is just such a great game, as well as a great experience. I don't think I'll ever forget this game. It's just so beautiful and amazing. Sure, there might be some flaws here and there, but they're mostly ever so little. So what are your thoughts on the game? Are there any other Persona games that are better? Please tell me in the comments below. But with that being said, I'll see ya fellows.